Sloop, in the heart of a quiet town, nestled among sleepy trees and moonlit gardens, stood a small, peaceful house. His world was one of paper and pencils, of charcoal and ink. This shadow had been his companion for as long as he could remember, a silent observer to his nightly ritual of creation. He'd draw fantastical creatures, distant galaxies, and heroes from stories he'd only read in books. One particular night, the air felt different. A storm was brewing on the horizon, its distant rumbles a low growl in the otherwise silent evening. Fly! Out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. The shadow on the wall. It moved. It wasn't his movement. It was a small, subtle shift, a twitch of the shadowed head, just a fraction of a second before he himself had even thought to move. He blinked, shaking his head. It must be a trick of the light, he thought, a flicker from the old lamp. 2. He dismissed it and returned to his dragon, carefully erasing a stray line. Then, as he sat perfectly still, the shadow's hand lifted, slowly, deliberately. 2. He stared, frozen, at the dark silhouette on the wall. It wasn't a trick. Their shadow was moving on its own. It seemed to be looking at his drawing, its head tilting as if in appreciation. Shadows don't have a will of their own. Maybe the wind outside was causing the curtains to flutter, distorting the light. But the windows were closed, the curtains perfectly still. The shadow stood with him, but it seemed taller now, darker. He took a hesitant step back, and the shadow followed, mimicking him perfectly for a moment before it stepped to the side, detaching itself from his heels. It now stood beside him, a separate entity, a being of pure darkness, born from his own form. It didn't do anything threatening. It just watched. Leo backed away until his back hit the opposite wall, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The shadow stayed by the desk, a silent guardian of his drawings. Days turned into a week, and Leo's life was consumed by this impossible secret. During the day, everything was normal. As soon as night fell and he was alone in his house, it would come alive. It never strayed far. It was like having a critic who couldn't speak. Leo started to feel less like a victim and more like he was under observation. Why was it here? What did it want? One night, the storm that had been threatening finally broke. The power flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging the house into absolute darkness. He was alone again, but the relief was a sound from downstairs, cut through the noise of the storm, the distinct creak of the front door. Leo froze. He was supposed to be alone in the house. His heart pounded against his ribs, a frantic drum against the symphony of the storm. He heard footsteps, slow and heavy, on the wooden floor below. Someone was inside his house. Panic seized him. Through footsteps started up the stairs, one deliberate creak at a time. Clover. And closer they came. Leo held his breath, tears welling in his eyes. Just as the footsteps reached the top of the stairs, a faint light flickered from the street, casting a long, distorted shape into his room through the window. And in that sliver of light, a shadow was born. His shadow arose up, not as a boy's silhouette, but as something much larger, much more terrifying. A strangled gasp came from the hallway, followed by the sound of someone stumbling backward in terror. The heavy footsteps scrambled away, down the stairs, and then the front door slammed shut. The presence was gone. Leo was left trembling in the corner. As his own fear began to subside, a new feeling emerged. It turned its featureless head towards him, and though it had no eyes, Leo felt as if it was looking right at him, checking to see if he was okay. In that moment, everything clicked into place. The shadow wasn't a threat. It had never been a threat. All this time, it hadn't been watching him with malice. He slowly pushed himself off the floor, his legs still shaky. He looked at the shadow, which now stood patiently by the wall, and for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He whispered into the quiet room, "Thank you." The shadow didn't respond. Of course, it was just a shadow. But somehow, Leo felt that it had heard him. The rest of the night passed peacefully, the storm outside eventually calming to a gentle patter. The shadow was back to its usual place, tethered to his feet, a simple, lifeless patch of darkness. Leo got ready for the day, the events of the night feeling like a surreal dream. But he knew it was real. As he stood by the door, ready to leave his room, he glanced back one last time. For just a split second, before he turned away, the shadow on the floor lifted a hand and gave a small, quick wave. A smile touched Leo's lips, for the first time in what felt like an eternity. He was never truly alone. And in a world that could sometimes feel big and